Dashush. Oh, sorry to write again. My name is Nermeen Dashush. I am a professor of early childhood education at Boston University, where I mostly involved in teacher education and teacher preparation programs. I teach, my focus is on educational technology and media, and how do we leverage technology and innovation to engage children, to support educators, and engage families as well. I'm also the Chief Learning Officer at MarcoPolo Learning, which we'll talk a little bit about later, and some of the digital solutions that we have created for children, for educators, and for families. I'll pass the baton.
Hello, I'm Shakika Moss. I'm the Curriculum and Teacher Support Manager for Meck Prek here at Smart Star in Mecklenburg County. I've been teaching pre-K to about 2nd, 3rd grade for about 15 or 16 years now. And so now I supervise a team of lovely instructional coaches and help support over 210 teachers in early childhood to have high quality classrooms.
Thanks, Kika. And I am Mary Margaret Cantor. I am the Chief Early Education Officer at Smart Start in Mecklenburg County. I have a number of duties in that role, but my biggest one, and the one that consumes most of my time, is I am the Senior Administrator of our universal pre-K program in the county called Meck Prek.
Oh, I think we need to share a fun fact about us.
We forgot fun facts.
We forgot a fun fact. I will say a fun fact about me is just this time last week, I was in the rainforest in Panama and I was playing with a little monkey. And it was, I love animals. I love nature. In a way, I don't like camping or kind of I like to sleep inside. But I do like to, I do appreciate and enjoy the fun of nature. So that's my fun fact.
Shakiki, you want me to go next? I guess my fun fact is, I don't know how much fun it is for anybody else, and for me, it's more overwhelming than fun. But next week at this time, I'll be on my way to New York for my daughter's college graduation. Oh. I just have one daughter, and I cannot believe I'm at this point where she's graduating from college. It flew by. So thank you. It feels like not that many years ago, but she was 7. We were in the rainforest playing with monkeys and sloths. Now yeah. She's graduating college, so it flies.
So I'm gonna follow Nermeen and say my fun fact was this time last week I was in Dubai, riding 4-wheelers across sand dunes. So yeah. I like adventure and to explore.
World travelers. And I think a lot of it is connected to what we're going to talk about today on how we introduce the world to children, develop their appreciation for it, nurture their curiosity about it, and expose them to things that they're just outside of their window, in their backyard, on the street, but also worldwide as well. So our goals for today is to really understand the research on screen time. I know there's definitely concern and really digging deep into what does screen time mean? What does that look like for young children? What do we need to know in terms of number 2, understanding the features of high quality digital tools. So when you're making decisions and leveraging the benefits of these digital solutions, you understand how to make the decisions as well. What are those features? And of course, throughout, we'll be sharing Meck's pre-K's use of digital tools and how they've used it to innovate, to connect, and to support the high quality education in their classrooms. So I know there's kind of concerns about screen time, but I think a lot of it comes from really understanding what it is and what we do know about screen time. What has been consistent around the research, and some of you are here obviously from the early childhood world, is that we see very few little gains of digital learning. This obviously is not a substitution for what's going on the ground, but any type of digital learning engagement, whether watching television shows, apps, engaging with like digital games, we see very few gains from below 3 years old. So a lot of the questions around when to expose children to screen time, I think it gets tangled in with, is it bad for children? Well, the very least, what research agrees on, it's that we see very little benefit for below 3 years old. We see very little benefit in terms of that transferability into their skills, that cultivation of their skills. And a lot of what they should be learning, obviously, at that time can be learned hands-on. What we also know is the amount of screen time matters a lot. A lot of what we see around the negative impacts of digital learning or screen time is because it is being done for like an egregious amount of time. What we were recommending for children here is anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes maximum per day. But what we really have to ask is, what is the screen time replacing, if anything? So some of the impacts that we're seeing on screen time is because it's being used for prolonged periods of time. And so we're seeing the negative impacts of children missing that inquiry-based hands-on learning or playing outside or engaging with families. So can the screen time or the digital tool actually cultivate those experiences and enhance those experiences instead of substitute them? And what is on the screen matters a lot. I always tell families, educators, that think of screen time like sugar. It is ridiculous to say I'm going to give up all sugar. You won't make it to the end of the week, right? All food has sugar. You need carbs, but it really does matter what type and how much you're consuming of it. Same thing with digital learning for children. What is on the screen matters a lot, but how do we identify what is that quality learning? Here's what we know of the benefits of using high quality tools in the classroom. We see benefits of developing vocabulary. We'll describe some of that today. An increase in social, emotional, and empathy skills when used correctly. Some children are able to connect and really cultivate their self-management and self-awareness through vocabulary building, through different strategies. We see it be able to cultivate stronger inquiry skills. Curious children want to know more. They ask lots of questions per hour. And of course, they can gain those questions through their senses, but we also can give them another access point into cultivating their knowledge. We see increased letter and number recognition and gains in math and literacy. And we see increased interest across various topics. It takes a curious child, and all children are curious, and cultivates them to an even more curious child. So I keep using the term high quality digital tools. What are some of these features of a high quality digital tool? We're going to draw upon the EEE framework, which you could use to analyze any digital tool when making decisions for your classroom. The first one is engage. And that one is often misunderstood because when people think about the word engage, they think about children being excited and it's fun for them. And of course, that's what we want. But we want to make sure that whatever is engaging them, whatever's thrilling them, whatever's fun for them is also connected to their learning goals. So I'll give an example. If you're selecting a digital tool and the learning goals is around teaching children counting, and that, how do we teach one-to-one correspondence with counting? And the children are laughing and playing, but really what they find fun is an animal that just keeps like poking up on the screen and randomly making dances. And then here, every once in a while, they just count and then they go back to that dancing animal. What is engaging the child is that funny little animal. The learning is the math, and there's no connection between the engagement and the learning. So when identifying a high quality digital tool, ask yourself, what is the connection between what is truly intriguing the child and the learner and the learning goals? And if the learning goals are actually clearly identified as well. The second feature is enhancing. Does the technology add some kind of benefit to the learning? Is it scaffolding? Is it meeting the child where they are and allowing the child to shape their experience, or shaping the experience based on what it knows about the child? I'll never forget going into a classroom and a teacher was really struggling to turn on her smart board, and she reset it and set it again and put it on, and the children on the rug were like wiggling and moving about. And finally, when she turned it on, she said, oh, finally. It was 10 minutes later, the kids were like rolling, I was rolling. And then she took the smart board pen and drew a triangle. And she said, what shape is this? And then they just discussed the shape that she drew on the board. In that case, the technology did not add any benefits to the learning. It was not necessary. what was being used for the technology could have been done simply with a chalk and a chalkboard. And so asking yourself, is there added benefit with the technology that could, if you remove the technology, would not be possible without the technology? The third feature to consider is extension. Obviously, digital learning happens on a screen, in a digital world, whether it be an iPad, a tablet, but it has to be able to bridge some type of learning between the digital world, and we need to see it apply into the child's life. It needs to be able to extend home to school, school to home, and the digital world, whatever the child is learning, we need to see evidence of it and practice of it outside of the digital platform as well. So does it extend, or does it only live there in isolation? If it only lives in that experience, it's not a high quality digital tool. So hopefully these three features, along with consideration for screen time, really helps you unpack some of the ways that we can select high quality digital tools in the classroom. With that, we also will show you some examples of what we created at MarcoPolo. Our solution is called MarcoPolo for Educators, and we have a child-facing and at-home solution called MarcoPolo Families. A MarcoPolo for Educators, as you see here, is a platform where educators can tap into a media library that connects to children's curiosity, their own curriculum, and they're able to pull up these 2-minute videos that really give children a peek and access into multiple topics that they're curious about: dinosaurs, planets, the human body, animals that they see, little monkeys that they, I watched it. When I was in the rainforest, I was like, I saw that. We did a video about that, and that connection between that as well. It supports the teacher also with materials that come with it that teach the teacher how to ask open-ended questions, engage the child, lead discussions as well. So that classroom that went outside and they saw a squirrel and now they want to learn more, the teacher can go in, pull up that video, ask the questions. What types of squirrels do you see in your neighborhood? What other animals look like squirrels? And suddenly they're making those real world connections and making things that are once outside of their field of observation really come closer to home. And we also have a child-facing platform, which is available at home, that connects to families, and educators are sharing resources, videos for families. So again, we see that engaging where the child is engaging with the content. The learning goals are connected to what the child is curious about. It enhances because it meets the child where they are and really scaffolds with their needs and their interests. And it extends because it's one thing to just watch a video on the screen and it be interesting, but it extends to the child. We see a lot of question asking after these videos, discussions, connection with the families, discussion with the teacher and the families. And so we really designed it around that triple E framework. The first thing we want to explore, and I want to explore with my co-presenters as well, is social emotional learning. And you might be surprised to see social emotional learning on a discussion with high quality digital tools, because we often see social emotional learning as one thing and digital learning and digital solutions as another thing as well. But what we do know is children respond really well to visuals, to tools, to different modalities, and social emotional learning is no different. It's a very difficult and abstract concept for them. And what we can do with a digital tool is make something that is abstract more concrete for them and give them tools. We're going to focus, you might be familiar with this. This is the CASTLE framework that really breaks down the different components to social emotional learning. And where we really focus, we have throughout, is self-awareness and self-management. Self-awareness is a child able to identify and articulate their emotions, and self-management. Not just is the teacher telling the child what to do, but are we giving the child a specific tool for managing their own emotions? We have a variety of videos that we tap into for that, but I'll also turn it over to my co-presenter, Shakika, to see if she wants to add how it's being used in the classroom, and then I'll show one of our videos as an example.
Sure. So we use Second Step for our SEL, and Second Step has a free day every 5 days where teachers could choose a book. And in our case, since we have MarcoPolo, our teachers are able to pull SEL videos to show to the classroom. And it shows real life scenarios that happens in the classroom, like somebody knocking over your blocks or things like that. And kids can model and demonstrate on how to handle those situations as a classroom community.
Chiquiko, how are you seeing the teachers like pulling it up? What are some of the scenarios? Is it more like here's a lesson that we're going to learn, or are they pulling it up as need be? Like a child is struggling with something one-to-one, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, that's what I was just getting ready to say. It's a variation. So some teachers are pulling it up on a needs base, and then some teachers are aligning it with whatever our lesson is guided on through our SEL lesson to match it up with that, or just what they've been seeing take place in the classroom throughout that week.
And we see this really helpful for educators, even novice educators who want specific research and tapping into specific research. Resources. They end up in places that don't belong for children, like YouTube, trying to look for a visual for a child, something to model for a child, something to engage the child. We'll take the example of taking deep breaths, right? That's something that is very common, telling somebody to take a breath, but not actually teaching them how to take a breath. We see these visuals in the classroom that are great. If you're going to tell somebody to take a breath, especially a young child, tell them specific strategies. Here's one, you see the 4 fingers up. You tell the children to breathe up and down, up and down. Here's another one taught to me by actually somebody who's on the call. Her name is Ashley. So she's an educator with us at MarcoPolo, and it's called a snake breath. And she goes, right. And when the child is breathing, I've seen children really upset and really breathing, and an adult comes up to them and they say, you need to breathe. And they go, I am breathing. And we saw this and we said, why don't we create something that helps the child, but also teaches the teacher how to scaffold and how to support the child at this point. So I'll show you an example of one of our social emotional learning videos.
Breathing. First just and then it was
What's wrong, Lily?
I'm having a really rough day. I'm just
Maybe you just need a moment to calm down. Breathing can help with that.
breathing.
Yes, you are breathing. But there's a certain way to breathe which will help you feel calm.
Can you teach me?
Sure. Hold up one finger and pretend it's a flower. Breathe in and smell the flower. Now imagine your finger is a candle. Now a big breath out and blow out the candle. Let's try that again. Smell the flower. Blow out the candle. Smell the flower. Blow out the candle. How do you feel now, Lily?
The flower and candle breathing really worked. I feel calmer. You know, I think this day is going to be great after all.
I never fails when I'm watching this video. I wonder you're doing the same. I end up taking a deep breath with her. And that is actually the power of this. When I said one of the qualities of a high quality tool is you have to see it extend into real world application. Am I just watching something, or am I given something that I can do that can help me outside of the digital world, outside of this video as well? We see teachers in classrooms saying, oh, do you remember that video? Can we do some flower and candle breathing? So what's here is a 2-minute video. What we see are the lasting impacts of watching it. Embedded professional development for the teacher, because she's been given access to another tool, a resource for the child. And later on, we'll talk about how this can be shared with the family as well. So in our first connection, we see the benefits of using high quality digital tools to support social emotional learning and give children yet another modality to really unpack their emotions and tap into self-management tools. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cantor. And really, when she was sharing this with me, my heart was fluttering about how to engage and cultivate children's strength with digital tools.
Yeah, thanks, Reem. I just wanted to say a couple of things that, everything Noreen's said up to this point about the importance of choosing digital tools that, match that framework and that truly are really good for young children and aren't just a time filler or, a babysitter or whatever it might be. And so at Meck Pre-K, we really take really seriously everything that goes into the classroom. We examine it from every which angle and making sure it's something that's really going to work with our students. And that's what led us to incorporating MarcoPolo starting last year. We're in our second full year of implementation. I just wanted to share that that the breathing video you just saw at our back to school gathering last year, when we had over 300 teachers and administrators there, we showed that video, and then we gave every single one of them a baggie that had a candle and a artificial flower in it. And we had them all practice with it, and then they all had it to put in their rooms or their classrooms. So that's just another example of how you can, it can go both ways, right? You can take something that's three-dimensional and put it into a really high quality video, but you can also bring the video, it's a great way to introduce it, and then bring it, three-dimensional into the classroom. So the teacher had that visual, she could hold up the flower and the candle when it, when things needed to come down a little bit. This one is just, this is my buddy David. So I know this is totally against the rules, and I have admitted it freely and openly to everyone, but I do have, besides Shakika's child, who I adore and love, I have another favorite child in Meck Pre-K this year, and his name is David. And he is just, he's small for his age, but he's sturdy, and he talks like this. He's tough, and super, super smart. And his teacher recognized that, and he has this fascination with all things solar system, planetary, all things related to that. And so he was the kid who was going to get bored or going to need something to do, not because he couldn't keep up with the other kids, but because he was going to be way ahead of them. She constructed pretty much a whole curriculum for him. The class was not studying outer space or the solar system or any of that. But she on her own gathered some books, gathered some materials, and put together a MarcoPolo playlist for him, so that he could, during his choice times, go to that. That was David's curriculum, because he was the one totally into that. He was learning so much from this. I sat and watched him one day, just, he was scrolling through one of the, I'm not sure if it was this exact MarcoPolo, but one of them, he was just telling me facts, telling me facts about the solar system. And on another occasion, I watched him doing some of the literacy exercises, and he was just talking his way through the, the letter sound match. And, the last time I talked to his teacher, she said, oh yeah, he's fully reading now, and that was when he was only 3/4 of the way through pre-K. So for us, that's been an added blessing. And then again, the being able to send out to parents the playlists, so that it can continue from school to home, because Nermeen mentioned that as well. Those are just some of the highlights for us that have really made it a great tool to link home and school, and to extend what's happening in school for some of these children who need more. They're ready for more, and this allowed us to serve that.
Yeah, and I've definitely had children in my classroom. I think one of the ways that we make children feel seen and understood is really responding to their interests and their strength. There's the child that's interested in, like you said, space, in dinosaurs, in dogs. There's always one child that's really into cats. Every year, there's only one kid that's super into cats, right? And I love the way you wrote it. This is David's curriculum. We're responding and meeting him where he is. A lot of times when we talk about supporting children, we talk about like, oh, they need this and they're not doing this and they need to do that. But here is a strength-based approach of saying, how are we responding to their interest and cultivating it from there? How are we letting them be seen, right? It might not be part of the curriculum, it's not part of the study, but that's what he was interested in. And with that, there's a lot of embedded learning within it as well. Learning about sharing, communicating your ideas, conversations with adults, cultivating that vocabulary. So it even goes social-emotional learning of being able to see and recognizing your strength and your ability to communicate with others. So endless benefits of that as well. I want to show one of the examples around that was from our space videos, and talk about also meeting diverse learning needs. Meeting diverse learning needs, also cultivating strengths. One of the things that we're also, when we're creating our videos, we have a lot of things that we're balancing in mind. All of these videos were written by educators. That's another thing to consider when selecting high quality digital tools. Was an educator involved? When you're looking at the profile, who created this? Was there early childhood specialist experts? We want to make sure that those same pedagogical practices and high quality tools that we see in the classroom are also transferring here. How are things explained? How are things embedded? So in a video like this, the topic of this video is constellations. But we also, when working with educators and writing this script, they wanted to leverage that experience to teach children about shapes. And recognizing the shapes around them and seeing shapes in the world around them. So it's a video on constellations and the facts about that, but it's also about shapes. It's also about observation. It's also about communication. Let's take a look at that.
Constellations. The night sky is full of groups of stars called constellations. So many stars. Hey, if I join those ones, I can make a circle. You made a constellation, Chester. A constellation is a group of stars people joined up to make different shapes. Just like playing connect the dots. The constellations have names. This one is called Orion the Hunter. Try connecting the stars with your finger. Oh yeah, now I see him. Oh, look, that one's a dog. It is. That's Canis Major, or the greater dog. The dog's eye is one of the brightest stars in the sky, called Sirius. Many constellations have a story about their shapes to help you remember them. With that many stars in the sky, there must be lots of stories. I'm gonna make up my own, all about Chester, the greatest deer.
Immediate response to the child's interest or child's needs, but also a math lesson on geometry. Also a lesson around like story making and storytelling. So many different possibilities to really meet diverse learning needs and interests as well. With that, we also wanted to make sure that we were meeting diverse learning needs. And the first one that we hear immediately is language. We know we are teaching in a very linguistically diverse population. And how do we meet the diverse needs of children and families as well, and give them access to the curriculum, to discussions, and with respect to their different language needs. All of our videos come in English, which we saw one here, but we also have different variations in modified, in Spanish, and in Chinese. And I'll give you a peek into that. I'll give you a peek into that, and I'll open it also to my co-presenters to talk about how this is being used in the classroom. So that video that we had on constellations, let's take a look at it in Spanish.
¿Cuántas estrellas? Oye, si junto esas, puedo hacer un círculo.
And we also have it in Mandarin.
好多星星啊！嗨，那几颗连在一起就是个圆形。你唱。好多星。
And we also have a version called modified. Modified, it really does show you that this was created by educators. What we were noticing when educators were doing read alouds, when talking with children, when showing videos, is that they were sometimes pausing and rephrasing and simplifying the language, or even restating it and slowing down the language. So we asked ourselves, well, we're differentiating for different language learners, right? Here you could pull a small group of Spanish speakers, or even introduce them to the same video before they watch it in English. Here you can even send it home to a child whose family speaks Mandarin. But we also know for many different reasons, developmentally reasons, it could just be younger, it could be different languages that they're still acquiring, that the benefits of slowing down and simplifying the language has multiple uses as well. So we created a modified video, which slows it down, simplifies it, and also adds subtitles on the bottom.
Well, you made a constellation. People connected the stars to make different shapes.
And what we were seeing in the classroom, this was created originally for access for different language learners. But we were also seeing the benefits of literacy, where children were following along and seeing one-to-one word correspondence and reading left to right and looking at sight words. So multi-benefits and multiple uses here. Love to open it up to my co-presenters to see how are these various videos able to meet diverse learning needs and differentiate instruction in your classrooms.
Sorry, there's huge sirens going by. I can see Shakika's pausing too. Huge sirens going by just as we're about to speak. So we apologize. Hopefully they'll pass quickly. Yeah. So and I'll let Shakika speak more about it because she's out there a little bit more than I am, so she sees more. But where I know it's the huge benefit is, again, that home family connection and that family engagement piece. We do have so we have both. We have a lot of our second most spoken language is Spanish. In fact, we have one whole center where almost none of the parents, they only speak Spanish. And we have over 90 kids in that center. So that's the one huge benefit for us, is to create that that connection. But we also have a number of other languages spoken where the parents do not speak English. And so that modified English is a great way to connect with them, because it's helping them, you know, not only stay connected to their child's learning, but it's also helping them some with the language and helping them access some materials they might not be able to otherwise. So I know that's one of the things we like about it. Shakika, what else have you seen?
Yeah, you basically spoke to exactly what I was going to speak to. Our school, our Spanish school, our bilingual school, they teach Spanish one day and English the next day. So they have like an A-B schedule. So they're even able to switch over their technology in that same manner. So they Spanish days, they can watch their videos in Spanish, and on their English days, they can use the English versions of the same video. So kids are able to toggle back and forth and make some connections with the language within the video as well.
That definitely a good use for like bilingual education as well.
Yeah.
What I was seeing, and I actually saw this as a personal connection to me growing up as an English language learner. There is a lot of misconceptions around, like, children just need to learn the basics of English before they can participate in our science lesson or our social studies lesson. But you know, it almost seems like you have to have like the basics: he, she, table, chair. By the time they get to learning those basics of those words, you've already lost them. They're already so bored. They're still 4 or 5 years old. They don't want to learn about big, well, they do, so some of them, but big what, a small what, around what, right? Like, give them some context and some content to really give them that access point. So this is a way for them to immediately engage into the curriculum, to really see, to really participate and understand what their classmates are watching or learning about, even if they still don't have access to the English language. Heard a lot about family engagement. We discussed it a little bit more. I want to talk about that with Shakika around expanding the school walls and connecting families. A little bit of context to understand the power and the need, actually, of a digital connection. What we know about parents, sometimes when I was thinking about parents, I think about my own parents growing up, like, and then I'm like, wait, parents have completely changed. When we think about parents of young children, 90% of parents of young children are now millennials. They are digitally connected. They go on, many studies have showed that they go on the internet to seek parental advice and resources. They are already there. They are already connected. They're on their phones. We see a very small digital divide in terms of income when it comes to access to smartphones. So it's safe to say that the majority of the families that you have in your schools are already online. They're already connected. They're already using it to communicate, to get information. So when we think about family engagement, we cannot leave out that digital connection, because that is where they are. And just like Dr. Kander talked about meeting children and cultivating their strength, we also have to meet parents where they are as well. Turn it over to Shakika to expand more on family engagement, and then she'll also talk to you here about easy to use, which is Dr. Cantor told me to write that on, and you could see usage as well. Just let me know which slide you would like to start on.
Yeah, we can start here with connecting with families. So we use this in a variety of ways. So one way is we have a lot of a diverse population, and some of our families have to go on a 30-day leave. They have to go back to their country for a little while, and we allow them a 30-day leave. But to keep them connected to the classroom or what's going on in the classroom, our teachers make a playlist on MarcoPolo that is aligned with our curriculum. So whatever the study is, right now we're learning about insects, right? So if we have students out, the teachers will make a playlist about different insects, and teachers can even do personalized videos so that the child can still have a connection with their classroom teacher and don't feel, left out, or it's not a hard transition for when they return. So that's one of my favorite uses of MarcoPolo. And then we also, whenever we have to shut down, one of our schools had a gas leak last week, and so they had to close their school for two days. So anytime any of my programs have to shut down, we switch over to virtual learning, and our teachers can automatically go straight into MarcoPolo and pull up videos, again, aligned with the curriculum, to use as engagement and talking through Zoom. So that's another way we use MarcoPolo to connect from home and school. And then we also just use it again to make playlists so parents are aware of what's going on in the classroom. And it really helps with conversation. So when your child come home and say, what you did today? And most parents know the kids automatically say nothing, or play it outside, play it in blocks. And this kind of gives them a little bit more language. So my son is in one of the classrooms, and just yesterday we ended up reading a book about the dung beetle, and he automatically connected to the video he watched on MarcoPolo earlier this year. He was like, oh, I remember that. We've seen that before. And so that just helped with our conversation as we was talking about the different insects and animals that we were reading in our read aloud. Did we lose Noreen?
Oh my goodness. Jessica, did we lose Noreen?
We may have. Let me.
I think we did. Well, Shakika and I can start wrapping it up here until we can get her back. Oh, here she comes.
I'm back.
Yay. So yeah, it was important to me to talk about this because we do talk a lot about accountability in Meck Pre-K. Part of that is I feel very accountable and beholden to the county, who gives me this big budget and all this money to spend every year. And, with the goal of universal access to pre-K and our children going into kindergarten ready to learn. So I feel accountable for showing how I spent that money and that we had good results, based on it. We also believe it's the time to start teaching these parents to be accountable. That really, again, if you aren't part of your child's education and you aren't actively involved and you aren't fully engaged, your child's, not going to be, or their education is going to be lesser for that. So we do track we call parent participation and engagement all year long. They sign an agreement when they enroll in Meck Pre-K, which again is a free all year pre-kindergarten all day program for their children. They do sign an agreement to be active and engaged in their child's experience. And this is one of the ways we track. We literally have a tracking sheet. And this lets us see which parents are watching videos, who are responding to it. We can keep track of the children in the classroom, but then also the parents outside of that. See what they're watching, see what they're responding to. What we also love about MarcoPolo is there's also ways to follow up every video, right? It's not just, okay, watch the video and you're done. That's it. It's okay, watch the video as the beginning point, as the jumping off point, and then engage, then take it, this, like Shakika just said, they watched the video a while back, but then last night they read the book about the dung beetle, which had been one of the videos they watched. So this one's really important to us, is not just to have the resource, but have a way to track what's happening with the resource, and to give credit where credit is due. Give credit to our teachers who are using it and extending the children's learning, and to reward the parents, give them that pat on the back for engaging and being a part of it.
And I think the conversation about parent engagement is really shifting into parent education as well. And it's one thing, like we said before with the children, right? We're all learners. It's one thing to say you have to engage, and it's another thing to teach them how to engage. And I want everybody to stop and think about their family engagement and ask them, are you telling them to engage, or are you giving them or teaching them how to engage? So with a tool like this, we're not just sending home a video. I want you to think about other tools as well. What do you do with the resource? What am I supposed to do? What types of questions am I supposed to ask? And we provide that activity for families to do. And all of the activities are very low lift, no materials needed, and questions that families should ask. Even something like talk to your child is not really telling families what to do, but telling them specifically, talk to your child about this and ask them this type of question and share this type of question, is a way of engaging families immediately, making them feel successful, because we want to make sure that we're leveraging family strength as well and cultivating it. And later on, in other areas where it did not involve this video or did not involve this tool, they might remember that. They might say like, oh, maybe when I'm reading this book, I could ask this question, or we're watching this TV show, or we're walking down the street, because I've learned that I should be asking these types of questions when talking to my child. So that comes hand in hand with family engagement, is really hand in hand with family education as well. Now, would you like to add anything else? I'm back, I'm on the internet, I feel fully connected.
Nope, we're good.
So we wanted to thank you and open it up for any questions at this point, or comments. We have multiple representatives also from MarcoPolo. If you would like to learn more, feel free to add anything in the chat and we'll stay on. And if you'd like to also speak one-on-one, we'll also be here as well. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you all.